Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for May 28th, 2020, recorded around 12:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, taking a look at this latest sea surface temperature anomalies, these were updated as of yesterday, May 27th. Again, we continue to watch the fall of the Nino 3.4 region, which is roughly this area right in through here. There is no El Nino to speak of this year at all. And in fact, we're actually heading towards a more La Nina state again. We're continuing to see this area in the eastern Pacific begin to cool, and that is going to really limit any significant potential to hinder the Atlantic hurricane season this year. And speaking of the Atlantic basin, you notice here, as the latest sea surface temperatures, we do notice that there is still this really weird configuration here. But again, most of the main development region of the Atlantic is right at where it should be to slightly above average here. Again, mainly in the southern part of the MDR and also to the western and northern parts of the MDR are slightly above the long-term average. Again, nothing significant, but it is just a tad bit above the long-term average. Again, notice our little cool tongue that's kind of out here in the far eastern Atlantic at that time. But again, if we take a look here at the CDAS methodology, this is just a different way of actually, calculating the sea surface temperature differences. This is looking at the Nino 3.4 region, which again is roughly this area right in through about here of the eastern Pacific. We do notice that this area has really dropped off and fallen off a cliff over the last several weeks now, heading almost into the past month. We've really not been getting any sort of El Nino. Instead, we've been heading towards a La Nina. Today's daily contributors actually almost 0.6 degrees Celsius below the long-term average, so this is certainly now falling into the La Nina range again. Typically, you have to wait about 3 to 5 months before the Climate Prediction Center actually will designate this as a La Nina, because the atmosphere does take some time to actually transition. Again, we've only really fallen into a La Nina state the last couple of days here. 0.5 here is kind of where we're looking at there. 0.5 above and below is the thresholds for El Nino and La Nina respectively. And again, we've only really fallen there over the past couple of days, but there's no El Nino to speak of, nothing to really kick up any of the warmer waters at depth and actually have them surface. That is going to allow this actually to continue to fall and steady out eventually. It's not going to fall forever, but it will eventually steady out. But currently, this is still beginning to really fall off a cliff here, just given the actual environment. There will be no El Nino to speak of for this hurricane season. Now, taking a look here at the actual sea surface temperatures, this is coming off the CDAS methodology. Again, we're taking a look generally. This is from tropicaltidbits.com, by the way. We're taking a look here at the Western Atlantic and then Pacific Basin as well. And again, you may basically notice for the most part, again, west of 50 and south of 30, this is kind of where our favorable sea surface temperature environment profile is for tropical systems to develop for this time of the year. Again, for reference, we already had Arthur, and then we had Bertha that kind of came out through here. So again, this is the Gulf Stream that kind of runs up through here. That's what Arthur and Bertha kind of took advantage of. And again, we continue to see this Gulf Stream slip further to the north as time goes on. It will move further and further up to the north, and then this really cool water out here off the Mid-Atlantic coastline will begin to warm up as we go through time. We're curiously watching the Central American region in the Eastern Pacific, the far southeastern part of the Eastern Pacific Basin, for likely what is to develop down here near Central America that could directly affect portions of Central America by later this weekend and through early next week. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. Taking a look at the actual sea surface temperatures once again for the eastern part of the Atlantic Basin, again, generally our more favorable conditions are west of 50 degrees west, south of 30 north. Again, this part is still warming up for this time of the year. So again, we don't really expect to look out in the MDR this time of the year yet, but the western half of the MDR is certainly now more than supportive of tropical cyclones in the sea surface temperature sense. Now, taking a look here at the upper ocean heat content values, this is the depth of the warmer water. And again, the higher you go up in the scale towards these greens and yellow areas, these are the higher upper ocean heat content. Those are the higher and warmer waters that go down at depth. And again, our main focus right now still south of 30, west of 50. And again, it's going to be generally right now in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. You can even tell there is some now starting to move up into the southwestern Atlantic with the Gulf Stream and the far portions of the western half of the MDR. Again, that is going to be very significant for when these tropical waves do come off. Again, if they don't develop out here, that's going to save them a chance from going out to sea and turning away. So if they don't develop here in the MDR, they could develop somewhere out in here. Again, this is where people live. This is where our greatest potential for loss of life is, down, really in through this area. If they don't develop here, they could go on to develop over in this region. So again, it's very important to understand that just because we don't have the upper ocean heat content out here right now, currently it is only May 28th. Again, the start of the hurricane season is roughly about 5 to 4 days away. Again, June 1st is coming up on us next Monday. So again, it's very important to understand that, we are transitioning into a more favorable state, and the MDR should begin to warm up and fill in with some of these colors here as we go with time. But again, generally the most favorable here is the western part of the main development region of the Atlantic, and obviously the southwestern portions of the Atlantic near the Bahamas and Florida, off the southeast United States coast, the Caribbean, and also the Gulf of Mexico, which is generally expected for this time of the year anyway. Now, taking a look here at the upper level winds here, this is coming from the University of Central Wisconsin-Madison site. Again, we still do notice that there is still a fairly decent amount of westerly shear that's coming across this area right now. In the Caribbean, we do notice that this large area of favorable upper air motions that did help to support the formation of Bertha. That's obviously associated with a large anticyclone that's right now over the mid-Atlantic, just sitting off the coast there. Bertha's remnants are somewhere over Pennsylvania right now as a post-tropical system that is moving generally up towards Canada and will no longer be a significant rain or significant wind threat, but could bring some more rainfall potential. And we're also watching here in the Caribbean, or not in the Caribbean, but the southeastern part of the Eastern Pacific Basin for what could be developing over the next several days as the temperatures, the sea surface temperatures are very favorable. The favorability of the upper level winds are certainly favorable and becoming more favorable with time. So again, it is really only a matter of time now before the development chances here in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico go up as we start to become more favorable rooted in a favorable base state environment, with the start of the hurricane season only about 4 days away at this point. Now, taking a look here, this is the 850 millibar vorticity that's been in the atmosphere about 5,000 feet off the ground. Again, for reference, the higher you go up in the scale towards the reds and whites, the higher vorticity you're getting in the atmosphere. This is our little wave out here that we've kind of been watching over the last several days. Some of the modeling is suggesting that this could become a brief tropical or subtropical cyclone, as it stays generally towards the west of Bermuda, to the east of Bermuda. So again, we are going to continue to watch this. This is kind of some leftover remnants of an old frontal boundary, helping with some upper level winds across this region that could promote a favorability, a window of favorability for this system. Again, the National Hurricane Center has not officially given this system a chance, but some of the modeling and the European and GFS forecast have suggested that this could try to develop and go on to be a tropical or subtropical system here over the next 72 to 84 hours as it stays generally towards the east of Bermuda. So really no land impacts associated with that. This is the remnants here of what was Tropical Storm Bertha, located over Pennsylvania, really, is where the center is on this thing. Moving up generally towards Canada, could still produce some heavy rainfall potential for portions of the southeastern United States and the Mid-Atlantic states as well. Again, here's our little system that's bringing some of the severe weather to portions of the Midwestern states. And now all of our attention basically focuses now on this area of energy coming out of the Caribbean into the Eastern Pacific Basin, where we will likely see a Central American gyre begin to set up. That's the turning with winds at a lower altitude, helping to lower the pressures and bring in more moisture. And we are looking for something to form just south or near Central America that could affect directly portions of Central America throughout this upcoming weekend and through early next week, as a formidable system could develop there. At the very least, very heavy rainfall is likely for portions of Central America in the Yucatan Peninsula, including Belize City, over the next several days, as this generally meanders either moving inland somewhere in Central America or scraping along the coast and turning on out. Again, the modeling is very indecisive with this. So again, there could be direct land impacts in terms of a landfall, or they may not be, but generally very heavy rainfall is expected for portions of Central America and the Yucatan Peninsula over the next several days. Now, speaking of rainfall potential, this is the rainfall potential coming off the Weather Prediction Center, and this is for now post-tropical cyclone Bertha. Again, the remnants are located over here near Pennsylvania, just south of Pittsburgh. We are watching for some rainfall potential that could still impact portions of the Carolinas, generally 1 to 2 inches expected. The National Hurricane Center has issued their final advisory on Bertha. That's why we're not showing any of the graphics here for Bertha, as the last advisory for the National Hurricane Center has been issued, and this is now a post-tropical system. Speaking of our Eastern Pacific system, though, we are watching this area, which has a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours, and now an 80% over the next 5 days. Again, some impacts to Central America is certainly likely here, with heavy rainfall being the primary threat as of right now. Locally, over 20 inches of rain are possible in portions of the area. Again, the system is actually just here to the south right now and is expected to kind of meander off towards the north here, move around very little, as a Central American gyre is going to set up across this region. Again, that's going to induce a lot of the low-level flow, and that could be promoting a rather significant flooding problem, mudslide problem for portions of the Central America coastline here, including Belize City and portions of the Yucatan Peninsula. Heavy rainfall is likely to overspread through portions of the Cayman Islands as well, in Jamaica because of this. A large area of convection that is expected to develop and potentially focus here in the Eastern Pacific to develop into a subtropical not a subtropical, but a fully tropical system, rather, that could go on to impact portions of the Central America coastline here. So something we'll be watching there over the next 5 days. Again, that's the official from the National Hurricane Center. 40 over the next 48 hours and 80 over the next 5 days, as this could affect portions of Central America. Now, taking a look here at the models, this is the 12C GFS initialized. This is for 7 p.m. this evening here, or I'm sorry, not this evening, but yeah, this evening. So this is that was about 6 hours ago. We'll move it forward to about right now. We'll move that forward here to about the next 6 hours. This is the forecast for about 1 o'clock this afternoon, so just about 4 minutes ago. Again, this is our little system of energy out here that we've been watching really over the last several days. This could go on to produce a brief subtropical or tropical system here, generally towards the east and southeast of Bermuda, as this should become no land threat at all and safely be turned out there to sea. And you do notice here by hour 42 how that tries to consolidate again off towards the east of Bermuda there. But you do notice down here in the southeastern Pacific, this is our Central American gyre that's beginning to set up as a piece of energy from a tropical wave gets captured in this thing. That is going to help induce some low-level flow here. And by hour 72 here, within the matter of this Sunday at about 7 o'clock in the morning, give or take a little bit, you do notice that this system has now tried to consolidate just south of Central America and officially becomes a pretty robust low-level vorticity field by about 2 o'clock on Sunday. Again, give or take just a little bit there. Again, this particular model run does show that this could directly affect portions of Central America. And then what could also be happening is that we could get some leftover energy and vorticity that could try to consolidate into a second tropical cyclone south there of Central America, while this larger piece of energy continues to spiral around. Again, the modeling does not have a good handle on the Central American gyre so far. It is very wish-washy. It's very flip-floppity between different scenarios. So again, for the longest time, it was showing something forming out here in the Caribbean, and no longer really seems to be that, except for hour 186, where there could be something there, could be something there. If we take a look here at the European model, this is the 0Z European model. Again, we moved that out here to hour 48. That's our potential tropical system out there east of Bermuda. Really no land impacts there. Could be some marine impacts, but certainly no land impacts expected with that. The larger piece of energy that's kind of strung out from just north of the islands and south of the Bahamas into the system there. Again, this is our Central American gyre that's kind of setting up across here on our vorticity field located with that tropical disturbance there. And over the next 96 hours, generally that's expected to move somewhat inland. Again, the GFS and the European model have been suggesting that we could see something, the energy kind of come up into the Gulf of Mexico. That has certainly been supported more and more by the ensemble members from both the GFS and the European model, that we have started to see something in there. Again, we are likely to see significant impacts to Central America from heavy rainfall, as well as a potential tropical cyclone as well. And then maybe some of this energy getting carried up into the Gulf. Again, it is still way too early to determine that right now. And again, people who are saying that there's going to be, any sort of formidable system out here, certainly should not really be listened to, as, it is certainly still too far out in time. So again, the main impacts from this Central American gyre setting up are going to be very heavy rainfall, regardless of any tropical development, to portions of Central America and the Yucatan Peninsula, even as far east as the Cayman Islands and Jamaica out here, and maybe as far north and east as portions of Cuba there. So again, a large area of weather to watch here over the next several days or so. Real quickly, this is something that's going to be coming out here on the YouTube channel really this weekend or by early next week. We have finished compiling all the data from Hurricane Dorian using all of the resources that we had during the Hurricane Dorian mission last year, the weather station, and et cetera, et cetera. So we have a lot of information that we are going to compile into a nice video here. It should be probably about 15 or 20 minutes, so almost as long as our hurricane outlook and discussions are. And this is just taking a look at the rainfall. We have one here that focuses on the pressure and wind gust here, the wind and wind gust. Again, we're working on getting some of the kinks worked out with this, but for the most part, this is kind of what we're working on here. Again, this will be generally focused on the impact to portions of Florida and other portions as well. And take a real quick look at that. We can see kind of what we've been really working on here. This is actually the wind radii that we have compiled. So again, we're working on a lot of this. This will be nicely put together. It will be also available on our website, which will be linked in the description below, as well as the Twitter profile for me as well. So if you want to go check out what I'm working on, make sure you do that. If you guys do want to support this channel, make sure to subscribe and do everything else. So hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon. I am Michael Romali, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.